What up? Fallen Oni here with some unrated. It's not gonna go good, but so be it. So be it. Wow, wow, wacky.
Match found.
Hello, guys.
Yo, hello. How you doing?
Good, good. How about you?
Good, good.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Yes, yes.
I'm feeling. You can play whatever.
All right.
Let's do this. Do they know what it means to be truly?
All right, we got this. I'm gonna push mid.
Yo.
Yup. Are you unsure about something?
Going B.
Placing sentry.
Not deployed.
Viper. B.
The B bush. I'm on my way. On switch.
30. 30 Sage.
on our side.
Cypher is 50. Sage
Spike
hit 30.
down B. Last player standing.
Chamber, chamber, chamber.
One enemy remaining.
Nice.
Nice.
Neon was hit 49.
Just hold spike, just hold spike, just hold spike.
Nice.
I get away
Oh, yeah.
these things. They think they know pain. They can't begin to comprehend it. Affirmative.
Turret out.
Suppressing.
Enemy spotted
Spike down A.
Flashbang.
Fuck! She squatted!
Spike planted.
Enemy spotted A. Turret out. Finished.
Last player standing.
73.
Chamber, about that nanotech for your guns, do you, like, have any extra or...
Going B.
I'm gonna go mid.
Alright, KO, I'm gonna do something really dumb, okay?
We're kind of dumb. It's unrated.
You'll see. You'll see.
Alright.
Let's dance. Shutting them down.
Placing sentry.
Never mind, they're not here.
Or are they?
Viper mid.
Oh my god, man. KO, you had to say that.
She's in the freaking corner.
Careful. Careful, B man.
Adios.
Fuck!
Wait, I thought. Wait, is adios not Spanish?
Last player standing.
Yeah, adios is Spanish. Why did Chamber say adios?
Spike planted.
Nice try, nice try.
Where are we going this time?
They
Remember
are
what worked in
so
the past.
dead.
Placing sentry.
Cover going out. Knife to kill. Two suppressed.
Placing swarm grenade.
Not A.
They're trying to grab orb.
He literally knifed A. Did you not knife A?
Out.
Enemy B.
Cat. Careful, Omen.
Bow. Nice,
Spike
nice.
down mid.
Sage has a vandal on top.
I think they're rotating the A.
One enemy remaining.
Careful.
Last player standing.
Look at a tree. Or... Fucking... Look at a tree.
30 seconds left. Spike planted.
Found them. Swarm grenade out. Turret out. Ultimate is ready.
Better. Better. Better.
Holy.
Everyone makes fun of German efficiency. Ha ha. Just keep laughing as you use all my gear.
Solid work.
Turret out.
Need repairs. Need backup.
Placing alarm bot. Placing swarm grenade. Placing swarm grenade.
Almost ready.
Viper wall at B.
Joke's over. You're dead. Two suppressed.
107 on Phoenix. B site.
Flashbang. Flash. It's ready.
Spike down B.
130 on Phoenix.
Nice, chamber.
Nice.
One enemy remaining.
Both on
Last
side, both on
player
side.
standing.
Teleport's ready.
He's on site.
I'm pretty sure she's on site.
Get the van.
You should probably push.
Okay.
Thirty seconds left.
Alright.
Spike planted.
Welcome to my world.
You have trip. Nice.
Nice.
Better. Just better.
What the hell?
Don't worry, you inspired me to get a kill now.
Yeah, you inspired me too, like anything possible after that.
Remember, your weapon is only a tool. You can't just shoot. You have to think.
Holy. Huh? Whose turn? No, you didn't, bitch. No, you didn't. Shut the fuck up. You fucking didn't. I know it's my turn, but no, you did not.
Shutting them down.
Then
I don't drink beer. What the fuck? Dude, I don't drink beer. What the fuck?
A.
I already know what you want to do.
Flash.
Hubby tree. Viper. Sage 18.
Spike planted.
Flashbang.
No!
chill, chill.
Heaven.
It's ready.
Who the fuck drank my beer, bruh?
Shadows traveling. Shadows.
Who drank one of his beers, bruh? Christian, what the fuck? I don't drink that shit.
Last player standing.
Strike at their weak points. If one link breaks, the rest will follow. No charges. Charlie Mike, let's move.
Watch this.
What the fuck?
Viper wall.
On my way.
I want help.
I'm pissed.
Mag deployed. One suppressed.
What the freak?
One enemy remaining.
B main.
Behind the box, behind the box.
Team Ace.
Nice. Did you shoot through the? Oh, you did.
Trash.
I got your backs. Just, you know, from the front.
Oh. Fuck beer. Fuck beer. I don't drink that shit. I like seltzer. I like aqua seltzer.
Suppress it. One suppressed.
Phoenix is pushing. Careful. No! He's 120.
Spike planted.
I said tomorrow morning.
Initiated.
One enemy remaining.
It's not heavy. Barely filling up. I would say when it's full, it's when the lid can't close.
Win. Show me where to go.
Down here.
Reloading.
They are so dead. Yo, what phantom skin? They have wall A.
Get deadly.
You mean B?
Shutting them down.
I'm in B, sorry.
Two suppressed.
Careful.
Joke's over. You're dead. Flash.
Careful mid
One
top.
enemy remaining.
Nice.
Damn, let him ace.
Get a last unknown. Oh, hey man.
Generator.
One suppressed.
He's right here.
Nice.
Good work.
Shows the show. Of course. Gun here. I thought I would have to work today. Clearly not.
Turret out.
Good work. Don't
Alarm bot out. Placing swarm grenade. Placing swarm grenade.
Pushed up.
enemy spotted. Oh,
97.
Last player standing.
Flashbang.
140 Cypher. Just one shot.
Flash.
Spike planted.
No! You fucking.
One bullet per enemy. That should be enough, yes?
Yo, kill. Can I get your vandal?
Need a drop. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank
Yeah.
turret out. This is gonna be fun.
Shutting them down. Three suppressed.
Enemy spotted mid.
Careful. There's three.
I know exactly.
52 on Cypher, 26 on Phoenix.
Cover going out. Walks away.
Spike planted.
Ah!
Reset. I need a reset.
Nice.
Last player standing.
Nice try, nice try.
try.
Last round before the switch.
Damn, bro, what the fuck?
Don't be cheap.
Yo, I kinda need that bundle, bro.
Need a drop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yo, Sage, I can buy you like a Spectre or something. Or I can buy Bean Sprout too.
I can buy for you.
Spotted Viper.
Cypher B.
Two suppressed. On my way.
Hi! I'm pissed!
That B.
No more. Reloading. Flashbang.
It might be rotating. A spike.
Spike down B.
Oh, she's market. What the fuck, Omen?
One enemy remaining.
Nice.
My ultimate is ready.
What the hell?
Switching sides.
Let's make a plan, then execute.
I'm gonna take mid control. I'm gonna smoke off cat and mid bottom.
I'm throwing mine F at mid.
If you want. I think you should knife for sight instead, you help them
Stay
out.
safe.
Alright then.
Placing swarm grenade.
Cover going out.
Swarm grenade out.
Gone.
Placing sentry. Here. Placing alarm bot. Placing my bot. Here.
Fuck!
Here.
That was too far. Sage was on top there too.
Last player standing.
You fucking.
I blame on my crosshair. It's the crosshair.
I survived obliteration. I will survive them. Reloading. Suppress it.
Turret out. Enemy spotted A.
Block in sight.
Wine. Viper.
Dude, what? $105 Cypher.
Sage's window. Nice.
Nice job.
I thought they weren't.
They're only human. Don't worry, I'll keep them quiet. Cover going out. Shutting them down. Shadows traveling.
Chill, don't push respect. Flashing.
He's right.
Healer down.
Viper,
Go B.
hard right.
Go on B.
Go B, go B.
Going for the plant.
One enemy remaining.
Nice.
Planted.
Ah, come on.
Nice.
I'll shut them down. Until then, survive.
Yeah, we're crushing it. Dun 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 dun
You
dun.
can't catch us.
Sorry.
I was experimenting with momentum.
My ult's ready.
Oh, what the?
Planting.
Hey, what
Yo,
One
the
enemy
neon?
remaining.
Neon is still at mid. Possibly, yeah.
No way. Ha!
Nice job. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Catch your breath.
Yeah.
Does anyone want spike?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I've read our wall. I'm just going through mid through B.
Reloading.
You wanna go through mid?
Yeah, but I'm gonna throw my knife at A. Let's go.
Welcome to my world.
Where was that?
Probably A.
Enemy spotted.
Hi! I'm
Scanning
pissed!
sight. TV. My ultimate is ready.
Someone's in there. Someone killed my bot. Should we go B?
Yes. I'm going right now.
Shutting them down.
Planning.
Planted.
Cypher's near.
One enemy remaining.
Nice.
Last player standing.
My
Mark
bad.
it. Just play time.
Flash.
Nice.
I bet you never seen a can opener do that.
Yeah.
KO, you are the best.
Thank you.
Now imagine if you let me install those ordnance mods.
My ult's almost ready.
Yeah.
GG.
Attackers win.
GG's. Have a good day. Nine lives. Oh, excuse me. Alright. Let's end it off tonight. Reverse. We're pro guides. Let's end it off with pro guys, guys. I need to talk more about helping my teammates calm. Hey, what the heck? Where is it?
In this video, we'll go over all you need to know about communication. What's going on, guys? It's your host, Sergeant Frost, and welcome back to another episode of Noob to Pro. Today it's episode 6, and we'll be talking about communication. Communication is a crucial part of Valorant, and it's also something that becomes increasingly important as you continue to climb the ranks and become a better Valorant player. To go about communication in the right way, we'll first cover some key concepts that are fundamental to having a solid communication skill set. Then we'll mention some bad habits you should avoid, and we'll be ending it with some more advanced things that build upon the fundamentals and can make a very big difference in your game. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So, of course, the absolute basics of communication is that when you see, hear, or read something that's useful for you or the rest of your team to know, you let them know through voice communication. This helps your team work together better, and even individual players will have an easier time in their decision making because they receive better information. But of course, there's a lot of things that should be considered when communicating, so first let's get some key concepts right. One of the most important concepts in communication is urgency. Using proper urgency and tone allows you to say a lot more with fewer or the same amount of words. There's a big difference between saying to B and to at B. Having a chill and relaxed tone makes a lot of sense when you're giving information that doesn't require an immediate response. You spotted enemies close to their spawn and no one in your team needs to react to that information right away. But calmly saying, there's one close behind you, even though it may be accurate, is not going to come across as urgent if you don't use the proper tone. One flank, watch out, does that job much better. Think about how you're calming and try prioritizing urgency through your tone. If something requires a teammate to do something right now or else they die or immediately lose the round, using some urgency in your voice is exactly right. If the last enemy is hit for 40 and was seen mid about 20 seconds ago, saying a calm last hit 40 was mid, or even just last hit 40 makes more sense. Then there's also the importance of saying numbers. If you spot 3 enemies peeking top mid on ascent, you call 3 top mid. But if you hear at least 2 fellas stomping in main, but honestly it sounds more like 4, you say 4 main. No, of course you don't. If you hear 2 but think it's more, you say at least 2 main. And if you see 5 people rushing a site, you say 5A, not all A. Because all A 9 out of 10 times means 3A. At least that's the precedent set in ranked. Make sure to always give accurate numbers.
No
when
way.
you but think it's more, you say at least 2 main. And if you see 5 people rushing a site, you say 5A, not all A, because all A 9 out of 10 times means 3A. At least that's the precedent set in ranked. Make sure to always give accurate numbers. When you think it's more, make that clear by saying something like at least or maybe more. If you're not sure, always name a lower amount. Make sure to build trust with your teammates and have them convinced by round 5 that the info you give is reliable. When in doubt, always give the lower end of your guess. Also, there's an important aspect of looking into context and giving all comms that are relevant in the moment, and leaving out things that aren't. When your teammate is in a 1v1, a super good comm is that their breach doesn't have any flashes anymore. By giving that piece of info, your teammates know he's either playing for a stun or he's going to try and catch him with a good peek. Similarly, when you're about to win a round in a 3v1 against a Sage, it might be worth mentioning that she's 1 orb off of a res. If your teammate overpeaks and dies, the round is suddenly a 2v2, and if Sage is near an orb, she might want to go grab one and turn it into a 3v2. In this scenario, that piece of information allows everyone on your team to have a better idea of how the round will likely play out, and what the enemy Sage has as her options. But if that comm is not immediately relevant and does substantially change the way a round is going to play out, making that comm is just a flood of unnecessary information that can even have negative effects like blocking footsteps. And try to make any relevant comms. Now, before we move on to some more fundamentals as well as bad habits, either playing for a stun or he's going to try and catch him with a good peek. Similarly, when you're about to win a round in a 3v1 against a Sage, it might be worth mentioning that she's 1 orb off of a res. If your teammate overpeaks and dies, the round is suddenly a 2v2, and if Sage is near an orb, she might want to go grab one and turn it into a 3v2. In this scenario, that piece of information allows everyone on your team to have a better idea of how the round will likely play out, and what the enemy Sage has as her options. But if that comm is not immediately relevant and does substantially change the way a round is going to play out, making that comm is just a flood of unnecessary information that can even have negative effects like blocking footsteps. And try to make any relevant comms. Now, before we move on to some more fundamentals as well as bad, to make sure that if you're serious about ranking, to communication. It's super important to make sure that when you make comms, it's clear whether you're guessing or you are having a read versus when you're actually knowing something and can confidently say it. If you're the A player and the enemies are faking your bomb site, it'll be natural to say something like steps A or drone A. Maybe you even call what you think it's A, but you're also the first player to see when it's a fake, or when it kind of seems like a fake, so you should be communicating that. If you spot some early utility but then no one comes out, saying something like, I think it's a fake, can make your team fall back in time to stop the real hit. But of course, you don't know if it's a fake, or at least not with certainty. Your enemies could be doing a re-hit where they basically fake a fake. Whether you think that's the case or not is going to come down to your read. Maybe the enemy started running back, but stopped stepping around suspiciously early, making you believe that they faked the footsteps. If you truly believe that they're going to re-hit, you should let your team know so they can prepare themselves. I think they're going to re-hit A, but that think word is really important. When you say that, your team knows that you don't immediately hear 5 people running at you, but more so that you make an educated guess based on that information you already have. For some reason, it's also important to differentiate between A, it's A, and I think it's A, can someone help? The first one means that there's probably all 5 rushing you down, and they're going to have the bomb site in at least the next 10 seconds. The latter means you heard a lot of steps, and the enemies are starting to use their utility, making you think it'll probably be A. On Haven, for example, you could be playing B as Sage and hear 3 people step around A lobby. This is a good enough reason to wall mid, call that you think it might be A, and start to rotate. But it absolutely doesn't warrant it's A, where everyone, including your C player, makes their way to A site as fast as their legs can carry them. Similarly to the first thing we talked about, make sure to express all these things with proper tone. If you think it's probably A, that should be roughly medium urgency. If it's definitely A, it's high urgency. And if you just hear some steps A lobby, then you comment with little to no urgency. Those are things you definitely need to nail and are absolutely fundamentals of communication. But there's also some more advanced things we'll go over in a moment, and some bad habits that you should definitely look to avoid. One of those things, one of the biggest bad habits people tend to fall into, is backseat gaming, or constantly telling your teammates how to play, especially during clutches. It's generally a better idea to focus on yourself and what yourself can do to improve the chances of winning the game, rather than what your team is doing wrong. But even if that wasn't the case, backseating would still be a bad idea most of the time. An important thing to consider is that every Valorant player has a different skill set, especially since there's so many agents and each of them have different mechanics. You might like to plant the bomb for spawn and play from there, but for your Omen, it might be a better idea to plant at default and play a one-way on spike. You don't know what your teammate's plan is, and what works best around the skill set they've developed. What works for you might not work for them. So even if your teammate isn't getting confused from both trying to clutch and listening to your step-by-step instructions, it could very still well be better to just let them play their clutch. I get it, watching your teammates fumble an easy clutch is painful to say the least, but bombarding them with instructions and forcing them to do something they might not be comfortable doing is only going to make them worse. So just shut up when you yourself are not in the clutch. The only exception to that rule is when your clutching teammate very apparently seems to be missing some crucial information that you do know of. Maybe they didn't hear the last guy step in garage and are instead watching flank. Then giving a short comm like he stepped garage makes sense. Leave it at that though, don't tell him when and how to peek. Don't tell them whether you think the enemy is sticking it or faking it. Let them cook. Only give them crucial information that you think they may have missed. Another bad habit, and one that's quite common even among better players, is whining and complaining. Your teammates don't really need to know the "oh my god, I whiffed. Man, that sucks, dude. He's hit 40 though." Only that last part of communication is relevant. Not only does whining clog up comms unnecessarily, so that your teammates are unable to hear important things like steps or abilities being used, but it also slows down important communication coming through, like that "he's hit 40" piece. If your teammate is close by, they could very well capitalize off that by jump right clicking them with the classic. But if you first whine for 5 seconds, then that kind of crosses out that option. Plus, on top of that, whining is just really annoying to listen to. Maybe if you have a duo and you're both dead, you can complain about it in Discord. But don't force your random teammates to listen to your cries. Honestly, no one cares. And lastly, a bit of an obvious one, but one that should be mentioned regardless of that, is tilting. Tilting and toxicity is awful communication-wise. It has 0 positives and a ton of negatives. It'll make your team play worse, it makes future good comms significantly more unlikely, and it completely ruins the vibe of any game. No one genuinely likes playing in a toxic environment. Start with the toxicity, and soon enough you'll be basically having everyone thinking they just want out, no matter the result. I don't think there's a worse habit you can get into than tilting on the mic. Internalize your emotions and don't scream them out to your teammates. No one appreciates that. If you think we missed any talking points or have an experience to share that this reminded you of, make sure to comment down below. But now for some more advanced tips, each of which are extremely helpful if you want to master the skill of communication. First of all, whenever you request a gun, make sure you state the name of the agent of the person you want to drop. Check for whoever has the most money and ask them to drop you. Doing it this way instead of just saying "can someone drop" will make sure your team manages their economy better, and also gives you a better chance of the right person actually responding. Hearing your name or agent triggers a person a lot more to listen than just for someone, so it's a good habit to get into. Another good thing is stating your team's utility before you go in for a retake, especially if you yourself have impactful utility. "Yo guys, I got a drone, let me drone spawn first. Hey, I have a killjoy ult, wait for retake." Stuff like that can really make a difference. But also, if you're playing Omen or even Jet, you can do the same. "Sova, can you dart, then I'll smoke dash in?" Or "I got 2 smokes left, I'll smoke long and short." When you call out you and your teammates' utility, a retake can be easily set up, and everyone on the team will have a much better idea of what it will look like. Also, when your team is looking for the last enemy or last couple enemies, and you've noticed some tendencies in their game, it might be worth communicating, "Chamber likes to flank," or "Omen usually plays A." These type of comms are clearly communicated as educated guesses, and can be helpful when structuring your play without being backseaty, or giving out comms you aren't sure are true. Definitely don't overdo this, but if you notice no one holding flank, and Chamber already did that 4 times during the half, then it might be a good way to help your team out. We already touched on this a bit, but in some cases it's also really good practice to count smokes or utility. Sova's drone is a super powerful ability. It sometimes even dictates where you and your teammates can play, since sitting in an off angle can be easily punished with a good drone. Similarly, Brimstone only has 3 smokes, so if he's already wasted 2, telling your teammates that will help them recognize that they won't be able to smoke all the angles on an upcoming site hit. And lastly, there's also fun comms. Comms that aren't giving important info or telling your team important strats, but rather just some funny stuff, or some uplifting comms that lighten the mood, and set up a fun atmosphere in the process. At the end of the day, we're playing a game, and enjoying the time you spend on it should be a goal in and of itself. Some of the top streamers like Tarek showcase this really well. Most, if not all of his games, he can be seen constantly making jokes and raising the environment he's in. He's a fun person, and he's enjoyable to play with, and that absolutely brings value to a team. It's not uncommon to see in professional teams that there's rules set around making sure everyone is having fun. Tilting and toxicity is obviously a big no-no, but seeing the opposite, where making sure the vibes are strong as a priority, is really interesting. When everyone is having fun, people play better. Part of that is circular, of course. When you're winning, you're more likely to enjoy your time, but it works in both ways. When you and your teammates are having fun and are just enjoying the game, it's easier to ask for a Sova drone or a breach flash as well, and they're going to be much more willing to help you. Good vibes works well in more ways than one. If you're a fun teammate, people around you are going to play better, and you'll enjoy the time you spend playing so much more. It feels weird telling people that being friendly and having a sense of humor is an integral part of Valorant, but honestly it quite does help. Enjoy your time playing, and you'll also see your win rate rise. Alright, that's going to wrap up the guide. If we missed anything, or you just want to have something to share, make sure to leave a comment down below. We try to reply to all of them and appreciate all the love. Thanks so much for
Now the latest one. This one.
In this video, we go over consistency, what it means to be consistent, as well as techniques you can use to be more consistent. What's going on, Pro Guides family? It's your host, Sergeant Frost, and today we're bringing you a brand new guide on consistency. Consistency is something that a lot of players struggle with. One game you're absolutely farming people, and the next you'll be lucky to get 5 kills at halftime. Why are people inconsistent? What are the mechanisms behind it? And what can you do to be more of a consistent player? Now let's get into it. So first things first, there's 2 places where inconsistency can come from. And to target them effectively, it's important to differentiate. The first type of inconsistency is something we like to refer to as external inconsistency, or inconsistency that comes from the outside. By that, we don't mean the usual stuff like, oh, how you can be consistent in an ever-changing environment, or agents that are random, or teammates that are random, and so on and so forth. But instead, more how much is the environment punishing you for your shortcomings. If you're really bad at clearing ratty corners and you play against a full team of rats, you're bound to have a bad game. You're doing the same stuff as usual and are essentially performing at one consistent level. But the outcomes are vastly different because of the different ability of your enemies to punish your mistakes. The external inconsistency can be fixed with practice targeting your specific weaknesses. If you practice your angle clearing, you won't be losing as much as against the types of players who love sitting in corners. But angle clearing is of course just an example, and there's a lot of potential weaknesses you can have, each of which can be abused. Because of that fact, inconsistency, at least the external type, is also going to be dependent on your own skill level. If you have a very well-rounded skill set with no big weaknesses to abuse, you'll be extremely consistent, and the type of playstyle your opponents have won't have much of an effect on you. So in a way, as you get better at the game, you'll also be more consistent. Because of that, this is a type of inconsistency associated with those that are less experienced players, and something that kind of just goes as you put more and more time into the game. But there's also another part of consistency, a part that's a lot more interesting, and also the type that a lot of people tend to think of when they talk about inconsistency, and that's internal inconsistency. One day you're hitting every shot, and you are performing at a level that you yourself didn't even know you had. And the next day, or for some maybe even the next game, you can't seem to even hit a solo while he's droning. You're putting yourself in the right spot and you're setting yourself up for easy shots, but then you just miss everything. Or maybe you have a couple of pretty bad rounds at the start of a game, and then you proceed to force engagements you know aren't the best, just because you feel like getting that one kill that will turn around the game for you. For this type of consistency, there's a concept called the ABC game, which revolves around quantifying your range of performance and looking into how and why for each segment of the range. The idea first came to my attention through the DDK pod test with Elige, one of the best Counter-Strike pros in CS history. Link for that will be down below. But it's a really interesting concept. When you're playing at your absolute best, you're in the zone, hitting shots, and you're making all-around good decisions. This is what we'll refer to as your A game. It serves as the upper part of your skill range. If we then go down a bit and you're at, let's say, your average or regular skill level, the level that you're at during most days, we'll call that your B game. And then if you're at your worst, where you can't seem to hit shots and you're constantly making mistakes that you know are bad in retrospect, then that's your C game, your worst possible performance essentially. It's important to note as well that just because you're playing at your worst, your C game at the start doesn't necessarily mean that you'll always be playing your C game, halfway or at the end. Things can happen mid-game that can either set you off and make you play worse, or maybe you get a lucky clutch and you start playing significantly better afterwards. Whether you're in your A, B, or C game is largely mental, and things both in and outside of the game can have a big impact on it.
I agree.
Now, before we dive deeper into that and how you can use it to become a more consistent player, I should quickly mention that we also have a website. Over on ProGuides. Now, on to how to actually use the concept of your A, B, and C game in practice. Differentiating between these different states is important. If you find yourself always being in your C game when you go into ranked without warm-up, you know it's important for you to take some time to get mentally ready. If you know that if you're stressed from homework, deadlines, or other stuff you play your C game, you know you should deal with those issues first. Some of the best players like Elige like to write all these things down and take both mental and physical notes to journal their emotions and performance. If you know things like deadlines, lack of sleep, or stress affect you, you can take the steps to avoid them and you'll see that your C game becomes less common. But be extensive with this. Don't just stop at things like sleep or warm-up. Consider other factors as well. Some factors like, did I recently eat, and how much does that affect my performance? Was it a big meal? Was it a really small meal? Am I feeling really energized? Am I relaxed, sad, or maybe quite happy? Did I just go to the gym before? Did I take a walk? Or did I go to get some fresh air? Depending on the type of person you are, all these things can negatively affect or positively affect you. For me personally, a big one is food. If I just had a big meal per se, I'll always feel a bit drowsy, which makes me play worse. But also on the contrary, if I'm super hungry, my mouse control feels off, and then I begin to lose focus quickly. Maybe you guys have something similar. If so, make sure to comment down below, since for me, taking that into account really helps me with my consistency. There's more to it than just fixing things that'll make you play worse. Another big part of the ABC game is recognizing where you are mid-game and changing your behavior from there.
Yeah.
If you're having a C game, it can be extremely helpful to try and take a step back, and then take a breath and accept that you're in your C game. Relax and look to go do things you're most comfortable with. Expanding on what you normally do and trying new things is a huge part of learning. But if you're having a C game, it's best to stay away from that, and instead only do things that you've done hundreds of times before.
Yeah.
If you've been playing for a while, you probably have one or a couple of plays or protocols that you like to run on each map. When you're having a C game, that's really great because it allows for you to fall back on them. You've done the same play countless times, so you'll be comfortable, and therefore you'll have a much better chance of working it out as well. Sometimes just being in this comfort of familiarity and having it work out a couple of rounds can already be enough to elevate you out of your C game. But even when it isn't, you at the very least will be performing at a higher level than if you were to completely give into your emotions in autopilot. A lot of people worsen their C game themselves. You play bad and get little kills, get fixated on that low figure, and then try to force a kill and put yourself in a place that you know is bad, and ultimately fail to get a kill because of that fact, meaning you're only increasing your frustration and problems in the end. And in this case, it's also important to see that the problem isn't that you don't know how to play. If you were in your A game or even your B game, you wouldn't have made that play. You understand that maybe your peak was bad and you know why it's bad, and that you shouldn't do it, but yet you did it anyway. So then the solution is not, oh, now I know that it's bad, but more, how come I do something that I know is bad? What emotions led me to do that? Targeting your decision-making framework won't help, but seeing what you can do about that emotion will. Similarly, when you're playing your A game, the same stuff applies. You should try to observe your own emotion and emotional state. Are you calm, cool, and collected? Are you a bit hyped? How are you feeling? What's the type of energy you have to be in your A game? If there's things you can replicate to increase the likeliness of performing at your top level, you should strive to reproduce that. Maybe it's a good night's sleep. Maybe it's the quiet lo-fi music in the background. Maybe it's that you just got back from the gym and are lifting some weights. But then it's also important to observe how you leave your A game if this occurs. I often find myself performing at my best level, but then quickly get spooked and start dropping off. Partly this can be because of my own insecurities. If I'm playing my best, I want to keep playing my best, and I get scared since I don't want to fall down from that level, which ultimately makes me fall off in the end as a result. But there's also an element where I know I'm playing well and I'm not necessarily getting overconfident, but more so scared of losing. I feel like in order to win, I need to maintain my current momentum and keep getting 2 to 3 kills per round, ultimately dropping myself to a C game instantaneously where I'm constantly making poor decisions that I just know aren't good, just because I want to force those kills. Recognizing these emotions or feelings that are causing these mistakes means you'll have a much better idea of what to target. It's not your understanding of the game, but maybe rather your greediness for kills when you're having a bad game. Even if you don't know how to deal with the emotion, just being aware of what you might feel and how that changes your behavior in-game can already have a positive effect on your gameplay. For me, I know that I have a tendency to overthink, which makes me sometimes be unconfident in a peak, because then I start second-guessing myself just a second before I execute it. And since I started focusing more on my mental game and became more and more aware of that, it has helped me to quickly recognize that emotion in the moment, so that I can stop for a second and delay my action until I give myself some time to get mentally prepared. Of course, these emotions are highly personal. Maybe you can't relate to overthinking in a game at all, but you have a tendency to tilt and lose control, or something entirely different. That's fine, it's all about journaling and becoming aware of your own mental game, and seeing what requires work for you. So just to recap, there's 2 types of inconsistencies in Valorant. The external type, or the differing ability of your opponents to punish your weaknesses. This type becomes less and less of an issue as you become more rounded and an all-around more higher skilled player. And then there's internal inconsistency, the range in which your personal performance varies. This range can be divided into the A, B, and C game. A game represents the highest levels of performance across that range, and C game's the lowest part. It's important to take notes observing your emotional state, linked to your performance. If you find you play best with soft music in the background after a good night's sleep and a good but not too filling lunch, then try to get yourself these circumstances as often as possible. If you find that you play worse, you start tilting, going for stupid plays and bad peaks out of greediness, then try to be aware of that emotion. Accept it when you're playing worse and go back to things that you're comfortable with and very used to doing. Know that just because you had a few rough rounds and are doing as well as you had hoped doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be playing at the same level by the end of it. Don't lose your mind or try to force things and you'll get a much better result. Emotions are an important aspect of your gameplay. Recognize that and do your best to not let them take over. Well guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you now have a better idea of what kind of factors go into performance and how you can be a more consistent player. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. This has been your host, Sergeant Frost.
Alright. We'll see you later. Have a good one.